They smile on screens, but hide battles that no one imagines. While you were getting emotional about the characters, these actors were fighting for their own lives, facing serious illnesses, constant pain, and devastating diagnoses. Today, you're going to discover the 7 Korean actors who fight against serious diseases. And I warn you, after this video, you'll never look at them the same way again. Anyone who sees Kim Bum today, active on social media and acting in new dramas, can't imagine what he faced behind the cameras. The actor, known worldwide for his role in Boys Over Flowers, spent years living with pain, physical limitations, and a diagnosis that no one expected: degenerative arthritis. It all started after a serious car accident in 2019. Recovery was slow, and the actor's body was never the same again. But what really aggravated his situation was something fans didn't expect. To play a character in the drama Padam Padam, Kim Bum lost more than 11 kilograms in a very short time. This drastic change affected his body permanently. Doctors linked the excessive physical effort and loss of muscle mass to the evolution of arthritis, a condition that for many is associated with old age, but in his case came too early. For a long time, he tried to keep the disease secret, appearing at events with rehearsed smiles. While inside, he dealt with intense pain and the frustration of seeing his body limiting his art. But in 2018, the truth came to light. Kim Bum revealed that he was in constant treatment, with medical monitoring, physiotherapy, and medications to try to stabilize the condition. Today, he continues acting, but under constant medical surveillance. His return to screens was celebrated, but few know that each scene, each recording requires much more from him than it seems. Kim Bum is not just a pretty face in Korean entertainment, he's a warrior who decided to continue even when his own body said to stop. Kim Su Hun is one of Korea's most valued actors. Star of hits like My Love from the Star and It's Okay to Not Be Okay, he is seen as an example of health, beauty, and charisma. But what many people don't know is that, since he was very young, the actor has lived with a serious health problem: cardiac arrhythmia and supraventricular tachycardia. The first signs appeared in adolescence, around age 13. At the time, he felt strong palpitations, sudden dizziness, and episodes of shortness of breath, symptoms that, for an ordinary teenager, could go unnoticed. But for Kim Su Hun were the warning of something more serious. Tests confirmed his heart wasn't beating at the right rhythm, a small synchronization error, but with big risks. Even with the diagnosis, he never stopped chasing his dreams. But for years, he had to hide the condition, adapting his routine to the limitations imposed by his body. Heavy physical training, long recordings, travels, everything needed to be done carefully. At some moments, symptoms intensified, and fans never knew. He smiled in front of cameras, even when his heart was racing for the wrong reasons. Years later, he underwent delicate surgery to try to correct the problem, and it worked. Since then, Kim Su Hun continues doing medical follow-ups, taking specific medications and monitoring each heartbeat. The public admires him for his acting, but behind the artist exists a human being who every day wins a silent battle, that of keeping his own body functioning in the simplest and most essential way: beating. Jung Il Woo seemed to be living the peak of youth and fame when everything changed in the blink of an eye. In 2006, he suffered one of the most serious accidents in the Korean industry, alongside his friend and also actor Lee Min-ho. The two were in the same car when they were hit by another vehicle, in an accident that almost took their lives. But while Lee Min-ho managed to recover over time, Jung Il Woo received news that would change everything. In addition to broken bones in his wrist and pelvis and internal bleeding in his head, he was diagnosed with a brain aneurysm, a silent and extremely dangerous condition. In other words, he had a time bomb inside his own brain. An aneurysm can rupture at any moment and cause a stroke, coma, or even instant death. The news hit fans like a punch. After all, Jung Il Woo was still very young, and thinking about losing someone at the peak of their career to something so cruel seemed absurd. For him, the fight was far beyond physical recovery. He began to live with fear, anxiety, and depression. Each headache, each dizziness, each discomfort could be the end. But Jung Il Woo didn't give up. He began rigorous medical follow-up, started taking care of his health obsessively, and over time resumed his career. In interviews, he has revealed that this experience completely transformed him. "I realize that we only have one chance in life, so I want to enjoy each day and show who I really am," declared the actor. Today, he continues acting, but never forgets that he carries with him a delicate condition. Jung Il Woo is more than a pretty face in dramas. He's a survivor. And each character he plays comes loaded with a strength that only someone who has faced death up close can transmit. Yong Ha was always known for his intensity, in acting, in speeches, and in choices. But But in 2017, the public discovered that, behind that almost uncontrollable energy, there was something darker. The actor was diagnosed with a bone tumor, a rare, chronic, and silent condition that had been growing for years inside him. At the time, the diagnosis shocked fans, especially because the actor was at the peak of popularity. His athletic physique and strong presence on screens hid the fact that he lived with constant pain and physical limitations. The situation reached a point where he was exempted from mandatory military service, something extremely uncommon and even controversial in South Korea. The tumor, according to medical reports, was located in a delicate and difficult-to-access bone area. Despite not being malignant, the progressive growth required constant attention. The disease directly affected his ability to perform certain movements, required frequent breaks in recordings, and forced him to follow a rigid medical schedule. But, unlike many, Yong Ha chose to keep most of this information secret. Only years later did the public know the severity of his condition. Behind the silence, there was pain, and behind the pain, there was strength. He continued acting, collecting intense and challenging roles, even when his own body threatened not to cooperate. Today, there are still many uncertainties about his current state, and the choice to keep his personal life protected only increases the mystery. But what can't be denied is that Yong Ha faced the type of battle that most will never see. And even with all the criticism and controversies that came later, there exists there a human being who, for a long time, fought to keep standing, even when his bones screamed to stop. Su Hun is one of the most beloved actresses by the public, eternally remembered for her role in Boys Over Flowers. Intelligent, talented, and always involved in multiple projects, from acting to directing, she seemed tireless. Until, during the filming of the drama You Are Too Much, something unexpected happened. The actress fainted on set and was rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis was frightening. Anaphylactic shock, one of the most serious allergic reactions the human body can have. In seconds, blood pressure drops, breathing fails, and life hangs by a thread. No one understood how that could happen to someone apparently healthy and active. But the truth is that Su Hun had already been suffering from serious allergic problems, which had worsened in silence. The drama production tried to hold things together, but the actress's health required priority. She was replaced in the middle of the broadcast, something rare in the Korean industry, and completely withdrew from the artistic scene for an indefinite time. The episode marked a watershed in her career. From then on, her image of unbeatable perfection gave way to a human woman, vulnerable, with limits like any other. During her withdrawal, Su Hun underwent various treatments and began a routine of extreme care with food, environment, and stress. She came to say in interviews that she began to read her body every day, like someone living with an invisible enemy, always ready to attack. The confidence to return took time, but gradually she came back, stronger and more aware. Today, her health is stable, but the lesson remained. Behind a multitasking artist, there was a woman waging an internal war, and each step she takes back to the stage is, in fact, an act of courage. Moon Geun-young is known as Korea's little sister, an actress who grew up before the public's eyes and won special affection from the entire country. But in 2017, affection turned into concern when she had to cancel all commitments and disappeared from the media suddenly. The reason? A rare and painful disease called compartment syndrome. For those who have never heard of it, it's a serious condition that occurs when pressure inside muscles increases to the point of interrupting blood circulation. The result is devastating. Unbearable pain, risk of muscle necrosis, loss of mobility, and in the most extreme cases, amputation. Moon Geun-young was rushed to the emergency room, already with advanced symptoms. She underwent 4 consecutive surgeries to try to control the pressure in the affected limbs. Recovery was slow, painful, and emotionally devastating. In addition to physical limitation, came aesthetic changes. The actress gained weight, aged prematurely, and began to isolate herself. The public, accustomed to seeing her as a symbol of youth and energy, now faced a woman who was exhausted, fragile, and dealing with sequelae that go beyond the physical. For a long time, Moon Geun-young remained silent, avoiding events and refusing roles, while trying to rebuild her self-esteem and her life away from the spotlight. In some rare interviews, she revealed that the pain wasn't just in her body, it was also in her soul. The pressure from the industry, the fear of not being the same anymore, and the cruel judgment of appearance were invisible scars that she had to learn to carry. Today, she gives small signs of return. Not with the same pace as before, but with the maturity that only pain teaches. Moon Geun-young is no longer just a juvenile star. She became a silent example of overcoming. Before the new stars of K-pop and dramas existed, Yong Ha was already an icon in Korea. Singer, actress, performer, she dominated everything. In the 90s and 2000s, it was practically impossible to turn on the TV without seeing her face on some program, drama, or stage. But in 2010, the intense brightness of this star was overshadowed by devastating news. She had thyroid cancer. The disease, despite being relatively common, brought serious risks. especially for someone whose voice was the main work tool, and that's exactly what happened. During surgery to remove the tumor, something went out of control. One of the nerves responsible for vocal cord movement was damaged. Result? Yong Ha spent 8 months unable to speak. The impact was brutal. She, who lived to express herself, suddenly plunged into forced silence. She couldn't sing, she couldn't act, she could barely talk to her family. Her career, built over decades, seemed to be crumbling before her own eyes. And the public, even knowing about the diagnosis, had no idea of the severity of what she was facing. In the following years, she completely withdrew from the stages. It was 8 years away from the spotlight, dedicated entirely to recovery. Speech therapists, vocal therapies, psychological treatment. Each small progress was a victory. Many bet that she would never return, but she returned. When she finally reappeared, with her voice even more hoarse but full of life, the public understood. That woman wasn't just an artist, she was a survivor. Yong Ha was reborn. And although her voice has changed, her essence remains intact, strong, intense, and impossible to silence.